Have a good day with 1290 AM and 102.3 FM. Talk radio for the Greater Hickory Metro.
First Talk with Hal Row, WHKY Talk Radio.
Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. We're joined this morning by Molly Rice. She is the director of the Tractor Shed Theater at St. Stephen's High School. And Molly Rice has been with us several times before. No stranger to the First Talk studios. We knew you way back when.
Way back when.
And not too far
You're
back.
making me sound old.
I was going to say not too far back.
You're making me sound old.
Last year. But for a while. How about that?
That's great.
And of course, now when we get in touch with each other and you say, we've got a Tractor Shed Theater coming up, I expect when a room full of kids and we're talking about some things that make differences in our community.
Yes.
That's one of the things about Tractor Shed Theater is you get the young people involved with things outside of maybe of the four walls of the school. And that's
right.
And that's one of the great things about. So I come in this morning, I'm expecting to see a bunch of kids.
Sharing seats.
Sharing seats.
And microphones.
Scooting up to the microphones. But we're going to be joined this morning by Hailey Ellwanger. She represents Juntos this morning. And she is the program coordinator for Juntos at St. Stephen's High School. Also joining us this morning is Hailey, Garrou. She's the Key Club advisor, a math teacher, but she's going to talk this morning about her role as advisor. So we'll talk about that this morning and the way that they play a role in our schools. But first, let's start with you. This is called the Sandy Hook Promise. This is what is going to be happening with Tractor Shed Theater this year. So tell us about it.
Yes, in our attempt to do civic engagement.
Civic engagement, that's the word.
We decided this year we would start within our own walls. Of course, we'll do civic engagement with the community, like we worked with Exodus Homes and so many amazing organizations. But this year, we wanted to do something within our own walls, and it's very dear to me, keeping kids safe. And it kind of started off with our superintendent, Dr. Matt Stover. He had, our kickoff celebration, and he was all about relationships and how important relationships are. St. Stephen's High School and Catawba County Schools started the Sandy Hook Promise last year with their initiative called Say Something. And that's if you see something, say something.
Right.
And so as we look at how our schools are now as far as, school violence, it kind of just was laid on my heart. I brought it to the attention of my 12 play production students, and they were all for it. However, I was like, we're only 12, and there's, 1,300 at Saint, pretty much. How can we really make a difference? We need to collaborate. And so we found the initiative Start with Hello, and it's a national week. It's this week.
It is this week.
Started yesterday.
Okay.
And so you do activities throughout the school to raise awareness for social isolation.
Okay.
And so we took the Sandy Hook vow, which is I promise to do all I can do to protect children from gun violence by encouraging and supporting solutions that create safer, healthier homes, schools, and communities. And we felt like this kindness project where you reach out to help someone, there's 3 steps, and everyone is trained within this material that Sandy Hook provides. It's all free resources to teachers, and it's 3 steps, and it's very simple, but hugely effective. So 1, see someone alone. 2, reach out and help. 3, start with hello. And 8 out of 10 teenagers will not initiate an approach to someone else that they do not know. And so luckily in our idea, we were able to gain collaboration, and that has filled my heart so much as Holly and Hailey and others within our school join forces with us to really try to reach our student body this week.
Let's talk about, first of all, Sandy Hook, because I think of those the words, I think about the location, I think about Sandy Hook as being a tragedy.
Yes.
You told me that out of this tragedy, the parents have gotten together and said, this is what we want to take this tragedy, we want to put our name on something that can create some good and make something positive out of this terrible tragedy.
Absolutely. And they're doing an amazing job across the nation providing free resources to parents parents. This is one thing that really intrigued me about this project as well, is that they encourage you to have a parent outreach. How do you talk to parents whose children are suffering social isolation? And social isolation is so, it's like a prism. The many ways that you can feel social isolation now more than ever before because of technology. And so the parent aspect, bringing in the other clubs and finding kindness activities to bring forth this week to help others is really, I think, really important within a school.
And yeah, you've got to, I was just thinking about the 8 out of 10, and I thought to myself, wow, that's a lot. But back, because I got to go back. I can't just sit here as an adult and think to myself, wow, that's a lot, and think about technology. When I was in high school, I don't know how many times I would approach somebody that I did not know. I don't know that I would go up to somebody and say, hello, how are you? That's a tough time for kids, at high school. And so much comes out of that. It's got to be a difficult thing to do, is to go up to somebody that you don't know and say hello, right?
Yes, and in the South, we're known for our hospitality, and we were known for our generous spirit with others and strangers. And we would walk on a path, we'd tip our hat, we'd say hello, good morning, how are you?
Right.
But these kids can't even make eye contact within their hallways. They do not make eye contact with someone.
See, there's that difference between maybe being a little shy or standoffish, maybe, as to not being able, in social isolation, having a lot more, negative situation or negative parts to it by not being able to have that interaction. And the research shows a lot of this is from technology, because I see kids on dates now, and there'll be they're texting away, but they're not present.
We're not present at all. We don't know how to communicate face to face. Matter of fact, we think that technology is helping students communicate virally, but actually the way they communicate mostly is through Snapchat, and Snapchat is not providing full communication. So when I use something like Flipgrid as a teacher,
what's Flipgrid?
I think it's this really cool little video platform where you get the kids to video themselves, and you think they're going to love it,
right,
and they are terrified. And I'm like, why? You do selfies, you do this all the time. Your face is always out there.
Right.
And they're like, no, Miss Rice, I actually have to say something that makes sense. I actually have to communicate.
That's what this is all about, right, is the actual communication. When we come back, we'll talk with Holly Ellwanger and Hailey Garrou. We'll talk about their take on this and their interaction with students when we return. More First Talk right after this. Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. We're talking about the civic engagement aspect of the Tractor Shed Theater for this year, and what we're talking about is the Sandy Hook Promise. Molly Rice joins us this morning. She's the director of the Tractor Shed Theater. Also, two educators from St. Stephen's High School. Holly Ellwanger, who heads up Juntos, also an English as a second language instructor, and Hailey Garrou. She's the Key Club advisor, also math teacher at St. Stephen's. So let's talk a little bit about what we were talking about with Molly Rice, and that's the isolation that youngsters feel. As English is a second language, Latino population, and in general, I'm thinking that maybe just because of language skills, maybe some of these youngsters feel isolated. Tell me a little bit about your experience with social isolation. I'll get it right here. Just isolation in the schools. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen with students.
Sure, absolutely. So within the English as a second language population and within the larger non-cultural majority population, a lot of times those kids, even their families, are expressing that they don't feel a part of the community. They don't feel confident necessarily in their language skills to engage.
Right.
They also sometimes culturally just feel different.
Right.
Just that sense of being different. And so in dealing with my students and their families, when Molly started talking about this social isolation, it really struck a chord with me because I've seen the impacts of that on my kids and their parents who so desperately want to be part of this larger school community. And so I wanted to jump in and see how we could all work together to make sure that every student's represented, that whether they're an English speaker, a non-English speaker, whether they're the smart kid, the jock, whatever, that there was a place for them that they felt safe within our school.
And so how does that start from the person who is experiencing that isolation? Because if you're in that and you feel isolated, I would think it would be very, very difficult to break out of that, because Molly just talked about a lot of the different ways that people feel isolated, and a lot of it can be social media, a lot of it can be physical in a classroom or in the hallways. Tell me a little bit about what you're learning and how we're going to start to, and of course, to start with hello is great, but sometimes if someone's isolated and they have difficulty with language skills, it would be very difficult, I think, for them to start with hello or to be able to say hello. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts, your ideas from what you've learned on how we get these folks engaged.
Absolutely. Well, as part of social isolation, a lot of times that can be internalized.
Okay.
And September is also Suicide Prevention Month.
Right.
And so what I want to make sure that my kids that I'm working with in the Juntos program do, yes, is start with hello,
right,
but also that they know what resources are available to them if they're feeling socially isolated.
Gotcha.
That there is an adult within our school that they feel connected to, whether
Okay.
that's me as, their Juntos contact or their teacher, or whether they're in Miss Rice's homeroom or in Mrs. Garrou's math class, or they know their school counselor, that they know that there's an adult in that school who's connected to them, cares about them, and is ready to hear them.
So it might not be in the classroom with somebody there who, it might not even be a sibling. It might be somebody who's in the school system that they know that they can be connected with, that if they're having those feelings or if they're having difficulty with isolation, there is somebody to talk to. You want them to know that. So that part of it, that information, is vital. Before we go on, I want you to tell me briefly about Juntos, what that is. I think I know, but that's always a problem, me thinking I know something. So tell me what Juntos is.
Sure. So Juntos is a program that originated out of North Carolina State University, and our mission is to work with the Latino high school students, make sure they graduate from high school and move on to higher education, whether that be community college, four-year university, on-site job training, military, but we want to make sure that they're graduating high school and that they're living their best life.
And you're able to
that.
assist them with this in the Latino community specifically.
Absolutely.
Because as many other things and challenges they may have, you want to make sure that in the Latino community they know that there are resources available, and you want to make that that part of their education experience through Juntos.
Absolutely. And a really important piece of Juntos is the parent component.
Okay.
We involve the parents in our programs. We bring them in 6 times a year and really make sure that the parents are getting the information, oftentimes in Spanish, but because a lot of times our educational system is very different from the educational system they grew up in, we're educating them what resources are available, what's necessary to graduate, how to apply for college, how to apply for financial aid, how to apply for scholarships, so that they can be supportive. Because those families oftentimes moved here to make sure their children had a better life.
Right.
They just don't know how to do it.
Don't know how to do it. So you help them put that in place.
Absolutely.
I don't know much about financial aid going to college, but I do know this. I've heard this. Start with FAFSA. That's always the word.
That's
It
right.
starts with FAFSA. It all starts with FAFSA.
The amazing thing about Juntos.
I'll move on over just a little, Molly, so we can hear you. There you go.
I was just going to say the amazing thing about Juntos and Holly is how well attended Juntos is. They sometimes have trouble finding a space that would accommodate the numbers. So that's always surprising. Being
That they are.
an ex-ESL teacher, you tend to think, oh, there'll be a few parents. No, not
They're
at all.
engaged.
Not
They
with
want
Holly
this
and
service.
Juntos.
They want to be
About
able to
how
find
many
out more.
attend?
We have about 40 kids in the Juntos program at this point, and when we have family nights, we normally have about 75 folks in attendance.
I was going to say, I did learn a little bit about Latino families, and when you see them at the grocery store and the whole family is there, that's what they do. It's not like, no, you're not sitting at home in the computer. Get in the car. We're going to all go to the grocery store,
Absolutely.
which is a great thing. Let's talk with Hailey Garrou for a moment next. She is the Key Club advisor, math teacher. Wow, math teacher. You got to be impressed with a math teacher, especially today.
Oh, thank you.
You certainly do have a challenge. And so let's talk a little bit about, first of all, your role as a Key Club advisor. What is the Key Club?
Key Club is a service organization. We're sponsored by the Hickory Kiwanis. And I became the advisor last year, so I'm still relatively new to the organization.
Right.
But I've been so impressed with the willingness and the passion that these kids have for service and how much they want to give back to their school and community.
So it is service and it is giving back. So on this end, when we're talking about social isolation, we're talking about some folks here who are interested in leadership, interested in giving back, and oftentimes these may be the students who will go out and start with hello.
Absolutely.
And put their hand out and say, "Hi, I'm Hailey," or "Hello, I'm Hailey."
Yes, we thought when Molly emailed us about wanting to start with hello, we felt that this would be a really great fit for Key Club because a lot of these students are your natural leaders, and
Right.
there are students who are more likely to take that initiative and to be more outgoing and extroverted. And so tomorrow we're actually doing we're calling it Welcome Wednesday, and we're going to have Key Club members stationed at each of the entrances to the school. And
Really?
greet students as they walk in the door, hand them a piece of candy, say have a nice day, just so that every student who walks in the door, or hopefully almost every student, literally starts their day with hello, so that they feel, at least for that one day, feel included and like someone cares about them.
How long, if you don't mind me asking, and how long have you been in education? How long have you been in education?
This is my 7th year.
7th year.
Yes.
Do you see social isolation? Do you see kids in the classroom? Because I know we no longer have the chalkboard up front. We have whiteboards, we have computers. Do you see children that are isolated, that just don't, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that when we come back. I'd like to talk when we come back a little bit more about the personality of some of the youngsters. I don't say children because we're talking high school, but some of the youngsters that we see and the way that you as educators deal with that today, and maybe the way that you'll deal with it after this. Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. Talking about something very important this morning. It's the Sandy Hook Promise. And we'll go over that again because I want to hear that promise again and what people are doing. We're talking about the school aspect of it this morning. Joining us this morning, Molly Rice. She's the director of Tractor Shed Theater. Also, educators Holly Ellwanger and Hailey Garrou. We'll talk with Ms. Garrou again in just a moment about Key Club. Right now, though, before we continue on, we do want to let you know about the Air Quality Index forecast for the area.
This air quality index forecast.
Going to be a green day here in the Greater Hickory Metro. Breathing easy, good air quality, and of course, throughout the great state of North Carolina, good air quality today. So that's nice to know. Breathing easy, no problems today with air quality. Ms. Garrou, before we went to the break, I asked you, do you, as an educator, we're talking about social isolation this morning. And I don't know, maybe y'all didn't, but I certainly felt it when I was growing up. It's hard to go back and remember what it's like as a kid, but to feel different, to feel apart from, and maybe not all the time, but even in certain cases, you would feel different than or away from. And you always want to be, let's face it, we always want to be with the cool kids. We always want to plug in. Everybody likes that. That's part of the tribe and part of the campfire. Nobody likes to be shunned or put out. We all want to be part of the group, I think. So tell me about when you're as an educator and you're looking out in the classroom. I'm sure you do. You see these youngsters who are isolated, right?
Of course, and it breaks your heart, and it's hard to know what to do, what steps you can take to help fix that. And
right.
So that's why I think that Start with Hello Week is such a great idea, because this gives teachers and it gives students some very simple, but like Molly said, some very effective steps that can help sort of correct some of that. You see someone who is isolated or alone, you reach out, and if you don't know what else to say, you just start with hello. That's at least a first step.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing too, welcoming students. If nothing else, just as they come in, it gives the students who may not have been able to talk to somebody who maybe they wanted to engage.
It may be the only interaction that they have with someone that entire day, and so if we can at least make that one positive contact at the very beginning, start their day with hello, that may make a difference.
I'm thinking too, and this is just maybe I'm going way off track here, but I'm thinking math class, and sometimes I'm thinking you maybe have some very bright students who are pursuing math and are doing well, and maybe some other ones who don't do as well, who might want to be the next Sheldon or Big Bang Theory or whatever. Maybe that's the only good thing. Math, you all got that really going for you now. That's become kind of cool. But even in that aspect, you may have some folks who don't do as well, who are not part of that crowd or not part of that group that does extremely well, or maybe doesn't get to go to the competition. And so you still have that isolation, all different stratum within the school.
Yes, and we were just talking during the break, there's so much academic pressure on students now that it can be very easy to feel isolated if you don't feel that you're making the cut, if you don't feel that you are, adequately prepared to do those college applications, and if you don't score well on the ACT or the SAT,
right.
That can be very isolating as well.
So that can set you apart and make you feel differently. Then I want to talk a little bit more with you, Ms. Ellwanger. When you see this happening, what are some of the steps that you take personally, maybe, or as an educator before this, and then maybe some of the things that you've learned to help engage young people?
Sure. So one of the things is sometimes it's easy to see those kids that are socially isolated. You know, they're sitting in the corner by themselves. You don't see them interacting with students. And those are the kids that it's almost easier to, you as an educator, go up to them and you make sure you reach out to them. You go to the school counselor. You make sure you put them on the radar. But there's so many kids sitting in that classroom that feel socially isolated, and you don't know about because it's internal. So that's why I think it's so important that we as educators, we have hall duty, and part of that is standing out in the hall and saying, good morning, how are you? How's it going?
Right.
Getting to know those kids on a personal level.
Right.
And as Molly mentioned earlier, that's a big focus for our school system this year, is building those relationships. And I see that making such a difference with our students. For them to know there is someone in this world who cares about me. And you may never know what an impact you made on them. So that's part of why I think the Start with Hello Week is so important.
Really,
we get the kids talking with each other. This afternoon, when our Juntos group meets, we're going to go out and do some sidewalk chalk art outside the school, just welcoming students. You are loved, you are welcome, hello, so that when they come to school tomorrow morning, before they even get to Hailey's students who are saying hello, they have that positive message. And I just think the more that we as teachers, as parents, as people can connect with each other and just say, you matter.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's going to make the biggest difference for social isolation, but also just for our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just wonderfully, that's just a great way to put it. And it helps me understand where we need to be with how we're dealing with young people and how we're dealing with each other. It's not just young people who are being isolated. There are people out there, whether it's young or whether it's old. Sometimes I think of old folks maybe being socially isolated and not having that interaction. But it's also the very young, and it's people in high school who you think, and you made a great point, that it's not just the ones that you can kind of see sitting in the corner. It may be the captain of the football team. It may be some of the folks who we perceive to be the most popular children in high school, or mom or dad says, but inside they're hurting. Maybe on social media, they're isolated. Let's talk a little bit about social media, Molly Rice, because this is something that I could tell during the break is really very difficult for you, and the way that young people are using social media, and sometimes having people feel isolated through what comes up on Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter, whatever the platform is today.
My husband and I, Adrian Rice, we don't use cell phones at all, and that usually blows people's minds that we're able to live life without a cell phone. But we do use social media, and we're old school. We still use Facebook. So I was telling my students, we bought a Snapchat filter. See, my students designed and the club students designed the week of how can you reach your peers. And so I said, the part of the week has to have something to do on social media. We
Sure.
have to reach them there. As a theater person, I know with public relations, you have to do that sort of thing. And so, actually it was Holly's brought it up about Snapchat filter because the kids live there. And so we purchased a Snapchat filter. $75, by the way, it costs. $75 for a wee filter anyway. And
What is a
so
Snapchat filter?
Snapchat filter is where you have an image, like an overlay, that goes over your photograph that would say, start with hello, St. Stephen's High School.
Thank you.
So it kind
Gotcha.
of stamps the
Oh,
photograph.
thank you. Okay.
And so we bought that, and today, hopefully the kids are using it, not during class, but in the hallways. And we have a twinning day today, so it will give the student the opportunity to hide behind their cell phone, to go up to someone and get the Snapchat filter and say, hey, look, we're wearing the same kind of color today, or hey, we have on the same hoodie, or hey, look, we both have our hair in a bun. And that would give them a reason to snap a photo with someone they don't know and use that filter and start with hello in that way. And so, but Snapchat
Great
is
way to use social media.
a positive way to use it.
That's instead of just a blast or just asking people to engage, you're asking people to do that and see some similarities, to embrace similarities and to use social media to promote those similarities. Wow, that's really good.
So we
Whoever
call it
came up with
Twinning
that.
Tuesday.
Twinning Tuesday.
That would have
Okay.
been me and the kids with the Snapchat. But social media is frightening to me as well, because that's something, as an 80s kid, we didn't have that element of how we can be socially isolated. And in conversation with my students this week and preparing and designing this week, we noticed that with social isolation, there are so many ways that you can be isolated. Video games, you can feel isolation within that online community.
With an online
social
community
media.
where everybody's joining in, you can still feel isolated as part of. Can we? I know that we just had y'all probably for a half an hour. Y'all got just a few more minutes. We'll wrap up this morning. More first talk this because I think what we're talking about is important, and we've talked a lot about the. So when we come back, a little bit more about the solution, and a little bit about what we can do as a community to maybe help either our sons or daughters. Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. We're talking this morning with Hailey Garrou. She's the Key Club Advisor, math teacher at St. Stephen's High School. Holly Ellwanger, she is the head of the Juntos program, or the program coordinator at St. Stephen's. Also, Molly Rice, director of Tractor Shed Theater. You're starting inside the walls this year because you do civic engagement with Tractor Shed Theater.
Yep.
This year, you're trying to work on social isolation, and that's one of the things that we're talking about this morning. You have a child, you're an educator. This is obviously something, like you said, near and dear to your heart. Do you have the promise in front of you? Is it on that screen?
Yes.
Sandy Hook promise. This comes from the parents of Sandy Hook, where the terrible the shooting and tragedy took place. I want to say New Jersey. I'm not sure. But Sandy Hook, maybe New York. I don't know. Somewhere in
I
there.
think it was maybe Connecticut.
It was Connecticut.
Connecticut is exactly right. Thank you. And so the promise from these parents is?
I promise to do all I can to protect children from gun violence by encouraging and supporting solutions that create safer, healthier homes, schools, and communities.
So as communities, we'll talk a little bit this morning about maybe what we can do there. But Molly, tell us a little bit more.
So when I lived in Northern Ireland and did peace work, there was something that I found intriguing within the educational systems there that I felt like we missed out on. And that's personal and social education. Each child had PSE, personal and social education. And we do a great job. Holly is on actually the committee for character ed. And so that is something that, as a county, we're trying to bring back character education. And so I think that Start with Hello, the Sandy Hook Promise and such really goes with building character education. Sadly, it's just not as commonplace anymore in the South and other places. We used to be really great in the South with our manners and our morals, but things have changed. So we as educators need to make a difference and start teaching personal and social education directly, not indirectly as we all do. And through that will help mental health. And this Sandy Hook Promise, helps teach empathy and all the things that we're going to need to face our mental health issues.
Where are you on the professional development part of this? How is this being instituted in the schools? Have you just started? Is this something that you've learned for a while? Tell me a little bit about it.
No, this is our second year.
Second year?
With Character Ed, fully implemented. And that's a building leadership team committee. We have committees as educators. So that committee joined us. Administrators joined us. So we had Neil Everett and Chris Johnson, and then 2 guidance counselors, Candace Johnson and Angela Toddy. And then we had Student Council, Cohesion Club, Key Club, Juntos, Tractor Shed Theater reaching out. And also Pride wants to join in. We want to keep this ongoing, Hal, not just this national week, but we're wanting to keep it ongoing within our school and actually kind of combined it with Character Ed Committee. But we started off yesterday, with the Tractor Shed wanted to do video series. And so these videos are short. The first one we did was a group video, and it taught as kind of part of the training, the 3 steps of Start with Hello.
Okay, now it's recognized, right? When we see a student, we see a
someone
student
alone.
And then is it approach? Help me with the next one.
2 is reach out and help.
Reach out. And the third one is Start with Hello.
Start with Hello,
I was listening. I may forget that later today.
You are now trained. You can train in the community.
But I just okay, go ahead.
And so the video series is really amazing. Last night I was uploading to the video series, and my Tractor Shed kids took it personal. They said, "Can I share?" Because almost every student has a story about when they have felt that, regardless of if they feel it anymore or don't any. So they started off with these really short videos that you can find on the St. Stephen's High School webpage.
Okay.
If you go to Fine Arts Molly Rise Tractor Shed Theater, if you follow the links, you'll find these also shared out on social media. Hopefully you can see some, because they're really amazing original monologues
they're
based
monologues
on
from the
social isolation. And Sandy Hook Promise also has a video competition, and I didn't realize that, but that's part of, so we were doing it naturally, and now we're going to upload it and see if we can win some money. But anyway, but every child feels this way at some point. Every adult, every person feels that. The social isolation. But this week's activities are really fun and student-designed, and each club kind of took their own ownership of each day. And so yesterday we did a little social media game, a tag, at 3 people, to say hello to 3 people they do not know. And put that and call out people, those little games on social media. And then the Tractor Shed Theater video series started.
Right.
And then Juntos is going to decorate tonight and train all of Juntos. A student is going to train. So students become trainers as well.
Will this be a family event with Juntos, just the students?
Today it's just the students.
Today it's just the students, okay.
And then the Snapchat filters today and twinning Tuesday. And then, of course, you've heard that Key Club is going to be welcoming on our Wednesday.
Very nice.
Cohesion Club is also going on Wednesday. They're doing a kindness cards where they're going to give out free greeting cards to anyone that would like to have one. And they're going to do a surprise sticky note where they put sticky notes on certain lockers with statistics about these issues and kindness quotes. And then Thursday, Student Council will lead a random act of kindness challenge where they go in the cafeteria and they say, "Will you take on a kindness challenge today?" And they'll randomly pull it from a box, and the kid would have to do it within the week. And then we have a coffee house, and we'll have a mixer. And then Friday is No One Eats Alone Day, or mix it up in the cafeteria. So we're trying to mix up the cafeteria.
That's going to be big.
That hopefully some will do that. And they're also going to wear their favorite shirt, which is also another conversation piece. So really it's arming the children with ideas to reach out and speak to someone, even though they might be an introvert or shy or socially isolated.
So they get to wear their favorite shirt?
They do, as long as it's school appropriate.
No. So I don't know. Do y'all have uniforms? Do y'all have
No.
So like if I wore my Bob Marley T-shirt and someone said, "Oh, I really like Bob Marley," I did not know.
As long as there's not Bob Marley paraphernalia of some sort.
Right, gotcha. Okay, well, maybe I picked a bad one there. But anyway, well, yeah, just whatever. Someone can come out and say, tell me, Ms. Garrou, before we wrap up this morning, because we literally have just a moment or two left. Out in the community, what do I need to do to help those who are going through social isolation?
Well, I think it's the same 3 steps. They're so simple, but they're across, it works in the high school setting, it works out in the community as well. You see someone who's isolated, you reach out to them and just say hello.
Say hello.
And you would be surprised at how easy it is to start a conversation. Something simple like the T-shirts, hey, you like the Beatles, I like the Beatles.
Right. Beatles, better choice.
There you go.
Right.
Salutations, that's something that I want to bring back. We need to say good morning.
Good morning.
We need to say in our emails hello. And goodbye.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Ms. Ellwanger, so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having
Do
us.
appreciate it. And of course, Ms. Garrou, all that you all do for our students, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Molly Rice, always a pleasure to have you with us in the studio. Thanks so much for what you do with Tractor Shed Theater and all the kids there. And gosh, I just hope that this week at St. Stephen's, this will be just a transforming week for students, and maybe 1-2 of those youngsters who are feeling isolated. Maybe we'll make a new friend, maybe find somebody they can talk to, or be able to come out just a little bit more and know that they're cared about. We're going to go ahead and close the way we normally do.
Hal.
You're
Thank
welcome
you.
with our national anthem. Thanks so much for joining us on First Talk. We know you have a choice in morning radio. That's why we appreciate you choosing the First Talk radio program. Visit Sandy Hook just search Sandy Hook Promise.
Sure.
Best way to do it, St. Stephen's High. You'll find out more. I want to thank all of our educators for joining us this morning. More First Talk tomorrow morning. Be grateful for what you got. David Lerner, our DA, in tomorrow morning.